It's been almost 5 years since I started producing music. I've come a long way. Lots of wins, but to be honest, I've made a lot of mistakes too. I figured things out in the end, but I wasted so much time. And that's why I'm making this video. I wish I'd seen this video before starting out. How to learn music production from scratch. Now here's the kicker. If I could go back, I never would have started out with Logic. Now I'm an Apple fanboy, so I thought it made sense to start with our own music production software. But I just never gelled with it. It never felt easy to get ideas down. It left me feeling uninspired. Then I switched to Ableton and I've never looked back. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you're stuck too. If so, stick around. By the end of this video, you'll have a 9-step plan for starting out your music production journey the right way in 2025 with zero wasted time. Now, a DAW, or a digital audio workstation, is the piece of software that you will use to make music on a computer. There are lots to choose from, including Logic Pro, Ableton Live, which is what I've got here, FL Studio, Cubase, Bitwig, Pro Tools, Reaper, Studio One, Reason. Oh my God, they go on and on. Now, they look really complicated, and they are. But the reality is, it doesn't matter which DAW you use to produce music. These days, they're all great. But if you don't click with one, or at least the one that you're using, then it definitely might lead you to quit making music altogether. It very nearly happened to me. So choosing the right DAW for you is crucial. Now, my advice is to try a few before committing. Download the free trials, play around with them, whether it's Logic Pro or Ableton or something else. Find the one that clicks. Now, for me, it happened to be Ableton. For you, it could be different. But trust me, starting with the wrong one can derail you before you even begin. Let's talk about what actually makes you better, though, as a music producer. First up, once you've committed to your DAW, you have to learn it. And as I said, they are really complicated, but I mean really get to know it. Treat it like an instrument. How much time would you spend practicing the piano if you were to learn it from scratch today? A few hours a week, probably. You've got to put that level of practice into your DAW to really get to know the ins and the outs. I mean, this is one of my latest tracks. There are 40, 50 layers, lots of different sounds, lots of different techniques, lots of different plugins here at the bottom. A whole load of things going on the left. I mean, at first glance, you're just like, oh my God, where do you start? But there is so much to help you out there on YouTube. There are so many courses you could take. There are so many free courses and resources you can take. And, on my channel, I'm going to dive into some of this as well. So there are just people out there who really want to help you get to grips with this. The software is just so powerful these days with so many features. They can really help you get your ideas out into the world. But most people skip this step. They learn the basics and then keep on struggling and keep on doing the basics. I implore you, spend time with your DAW, watch tutorials, learn the stock plugins and use them over and over again and play with them until you find your own tricks that you will like to make your music sound like you and sound different from everyone else. This next point is not going to be that popular, but let's get real. Music theory is way more important than most people think. You can't create emotional, impactful songs if you just don't understand things like chord progressions and keys. Now, I learned piano as a kid, so I already knew a bit of music theory, but to be honest, I wish I'd spent even more time on it. Or at least I wish I'd keep learning music theory alongside music production. I mean, I guess it's not too late for me to change that. You see, music theory helps you create with intention. It makes your songs resonate more deeply with listeners. Look, a quick example. I was stuck recently on a project. It just wasn't really working. So I decided to pause the project and spend time revisiting the basics of music theory, and it made all the difference. When I went back to the project, I had so many ideas to unlock the emotions of the track, and that's what makes music really powerful. Don't wait until you hit a wall to prioritize this skill. Start early. Knowing how to play a real instrument, a piano, is a game changer for me. I have this on my desk all the time, and I use it every single day. This particular MIDI keyboard is new, but there's always been one here on my desk. It really helps me break out from the computer and get what's in my head out from me through the keyboard into the computer. It's really changed how I actually produce music. Suddenly, ideas flow naturally. It helps me break out the computer and get what's in my head out into the world. It's really changed how I actually produce music. Suddenly, ideas flow naturally and I can express myself with much more emotion. It's far too easy to get stuck in the piano roll and start putting notes and literally clicking them in with your mouse. There's a fixed grid here. You end up with these melodies that just don't sound human. And for some types of music, that's fine. You want a robotic, repeatable melody. For most things, though, you don't want things on the grid at exactly the same volume, every single note. And unfortunately, that's what using this piano roll, which all DAWs have, that's what they end up sounding like, and you get locked into it. Now, playing an instrument makes melodies much more human, much more dynamic, and far more emotional. So whether it's a piano here or guitar or drums, pick something up, start learning it. Honestly, it will fast track your growth as a music producer. When I first started, this was one thing I actually got right. But if I could go back, I'd do even more of it before trying to make original music. The key is to watch tutorials. There are so many on YouTube. Absorb the workflow, the arrangement, the techniques, step by step. I've just done a quick search here, how to make melodic techno start to finish, and there are loads, and some of these will be absolute gold. It teaches you the sound design, but the arrangement, maybe even some of the mixing, how they created the melodies. It's absolutely fantastic. And if I'm ever trying to produce a track in a genre that I don't know too well, this is exactly what I do. Go through, watch these tutorials, really get a sense of what makes that particular genre exciting and how to produce it. The next step from following tutorials is to remake songs from your favorite artists. This is probably my best tip for the fastest way to improve. It forces you to analyze every detail of a track, from sound design to structure. And I would encourage you all to go all the way through and try and get a fully arranged, finished, mixed track. Don't just recreate the main hook. Do the whole process, make a finished track. This gives you the discipline to complete tracks, and that is a big part of the process. But don't just do remakes. Balance it with creating your own tracks. When I was starting, I would split my time 50-50. Recreations, 50% my own tracks. And I would recommend you do the same. And talking of making your own songs, I would recommend releasing songs from day one. And I know that sounds really scary. And to be honest, it's something that I didn't do. Sharing your work, no matter how rough and ready it is, helps you to connect with your audience and really lets them into the whole process. It lets them join you on your journey. Authenticity is what people crave, and showing them how you go about things, showing them your progression. So even if your first track is not very good, they can see you getting better over time. And hopefully that's the same with me. It's that authenticity that's really important. And I actually avoided this for a long time. I was trying to sort of wait until my music was, good enough or just right. But what I should have done was get the tracks out. And actually back in earlier this year, in sort of August, September, I decided to do just that. And I decided I'm going to release a track every 4 weeks regardless. Doesn't matter how busy I am. Doesn't matter what else is going on in my life. I mean, obviously I'm going to try and make them as good as I possibly can. But, since then, I've had over 50,000 streams on Spotify on those tracks. And, are they fantastic? They're okay, but they're certainly getting better and better. And the feedback you get from the listeners and what works and what doesn't is so invaluable that the next track will get better. And so I just encourage you, don't skip this step. Release your creations into the world. Now, I've already said that YouTube is your friend, especially when it comes to tutorials, but it's also a curse, and it's easy to get overwhelmed and not know where to start. So let me simplify things for you. If you're serious about learning music production, I highly recommend investing in a paid course. Now, I know that is not a popular opinion. Nobody likes to hear about spending money, especially when it's so hard to actually make any money making music these days. But let's be real, these courses cost money because they work. They save you an insane amount of time and guesswork. And one thing I did get right when I started was diving straight into a masterclass. I took Deadmau5's course on, I think it's called Masterclass, and I loved it. I frankly didn't understand very much back at the start when I was watching it, and it felt like I crammed 6 months of learning into just 30 days. But you know, the structure, the knowledge, the insights from someone who's been there and done it, it kept me productive and motivated. Now with hindsight, I probably would have chosen a different course with a community aspect to it, because I think that aspect really keeps you on plan. You can learn from other people and obviously the course, but my advice is to try and find a course for 2025 that has a community aspect and a community aspect and even sort of project-based goals. So as you go along, you have something to work on for next week or next month. And they are absolute gold because they really push you to learn by doing. And it's far too easy these days to watch YouTube and just keep absorbing information without any actual doing. And it's the doing that will make you better. Another game-changing resource is finding a mentor, someone who can coach you one-on-one. Again, there are lots of people online that you can find. I have done this myself, and what they really help you avoid rookie mistakes, hold you accountable and encourage you during the tough times when you really are hitting a brick wall. Now, having that guidance can shave months or even years off your learning curve. I found that you'd make silly mistakes like clashing notes or playing notes out of scale and just things that are different grooves in the same track, things that sound great to you, but actually when you stand back, they just sound wrong. And if you put that kind of stuff up on Spotify, it'll just won't work because people, even though they won't know what's wrong, it just doesn't quite sound right. Looking back over my 5 years, my biggest regret is not the door that I chose, it's my mindset. Early on, I was obsessed with perfection. I wanted professional mixes, radio-ready tracks. But here's the thing, you can't run before you learn to walk. You know, music production is complicated. It takes time to learn this skill, and you aren't going to make tracks that you like initially. They're not going to sound like your favorite tracks. But take it slow. Focus on composing songs. You know, mixing and mastering, that can wait. And manage expectation. This journey takes years, not months. I've been doing it 5 years and I am nowhere near where I want to be. I learned that the hard way, but I nearly gave up because I was so far off where I wanted to be. I'm now getting closer and closer, and every day I make a step towards that goal. You really have to learn to value small, consistent actions. That's what adds up over time. So producing music isn't about a single great song. It's about showing up every day and putting in the reps. And yes, you know, rejection as well. Rejection is part of the process. Not everyone is going to like your tracks. And unfortunately, online these days, they're certainly very quick to tell you how bad your track is. But, you know, that's the beauty of art. Taste is subjective. Even the biggest artists have haters. What matters is staying curious, solving problems as they arise. You know, if you hit a roadblock, just Google it. The answers are out there. Most people have come across your problem before, and most people these days are really keen to help other people solve those problems. This journey is hard, but it's worth it. Music production is about more than tracks. It's about growth. It's about creativity and connection with an audience. So are you ready to dive in and make 2025 the year you really master music production? Well, check out this other video that YouTube thinks you'll like. And YouTube's pretty smart.